everybody, I'm Rich Barrington and welcome to RB Outdoors Northwest. I am standing on our 7 acres of off-grid property, and right behind the camera here we built, my wife and I, a 24 by 24 cabin, or our house. We are totally off-grid. We have access to water, but we have no power. We completely rely on solar with Battleborn batteries and EcoFlow Delta Pro for our power source. That is the house cabin you see in the background. We built that with roughly 9 different tools, 8 of those being Harbor Freight tools. And today's video is going to be a short review on each tool that we used to build our cabin. My wife and I, we have zero building experience. What I say is I have never even built a doghouse, let alone a house. So even when it came to tools, there's so many out there, so many different brands from the big box stores. So I went with Harbor Freight tools just to see how long they would last. They are quite a bit cheaper. So we're going to start with our first review on the Harbor Freight drill. All right, this is the drill driver that I was talking about. And guys, this thing was a beast. We used a lot of screws, a ton of screws, and this thing worked awesome. I ended up getting 2 of the 5 amp batteries for it and 2 chargers. I really can't say enough about this drill. This thing, if I could try to keep count of how many screws, but we're talking like thousands of screws. Now, I did damage the drill here 2 weeks ago while we're framing in our bathroom. I was up on our ladder, A-frame style, and I can put the drill in and twist it at the very top. Did that all summer for 7 months. 2 weeks ago, somehow I bumped it with my knee. It twisted and fell through the ladder. And look at that. Not so good. But check it out. It still works. It just cracked the plastic. But yes, I'm going to have to get a new one. But other than that, this drill has been an absolute drilling machine. I would highly recommend the Bauer brushless drill, even for just the everyday guy needs it. I'm really surprised how well it did. We've used it in 100+ degree heat, and as you can see, it's cold and it works just fine. I always keep the batteries inside the house. It has some pretty nice features. When you hit this to drill, you got a nice light, which is actually came in quite handy. Obviously, it's got 2 speeds up here. It's got 21 different adjustments depending on what you're trying to screw or drill. Me personally, I kept it on the highest setting that, and usually I kept it on 1 or 2 depending on how thick of the wood that I was drilling in. Now again, I bought this about 2 years ago. I'll put the current price down here below as soon as I look it up, but if I remember right, I paid about 35 bucks if I remember right. So I'm going to look that up right now. But I cannot say enough about this drill. If it wasn't for the fall, which was my fault, this thing would still be going strong. While the drill did a lot of drilling, the actual main workhorse of our off-grid cabin build was this guy right here, the Gerber Circular Saw. And let me tell you, this thing was absolutely amazing. I kind of did a rough estimate, but I came up with 225 2x8s this thing cut, and at least 45 2x10s this cut. I did go through, I think, 3 or 4 blades while using this about 7 months it took us to build. And we'll have over 90 sheets of plywood for the floor, the walls, and the roof. Now, of course, we didn't cut all 90, but we did have to cut a lot for the roof and walls. And again, this thing was absolutely, it never let me down. So if you're just an everyday Joe and you're going to have this in your garage just to make a doghouse or simple cuts like that, I think this is way worth the money. Like I said, I built an entire house with every cut that needed to be cut with this particular saw, and I think 4 blades. Nothing super fancy about it. Yeah, you can adjust it and cut your angles, and of course your depth. Like I said, especially on the 2x10s, I was expecting this to get maybe hot because, you know, we were cutting those in over 100-degree heat, and this thing just kept going. With the 5 amp battery on there, it's fairly light. I mean, that battery itself is pretty heavy, and I would highly, highly recommend this circular saw, especially for the price. And the third tool that we used is the Bauer impact driver. I didn't use this a ton. I was putting in some lag bolts that were 12 inches long and then all the way down to about 4 inches long. And let me tell you, this is my first time owning an impact driver. I knew what they were, but I never really operated one before. And I put that battery on there, the 5 amp battery, and I had that 12-inch lag bolt. And man, that thing just drove it down, and I was really surprised for the size and the weight, how much torque these little things actually have. And again, I bought this about 1.5 years ago. I'll put the current price down as soon as I find out how much this is. But again, this is my first experience with the impact driver, and let me tell you, I was very thoroughly pleased. And I probably put in about 50 lag bolting into logs. With our foundation, I was putting in big lag bolts into 2x8s to put them together for extra strength. And this thing just zipped right through it. All right. And then the sander. Now, we did not use this one this much. We have a big center beam in the middle of our cabin, and my wife used this way more than I did, sanding down that big beam, or post I should say, in the center of our cabin, and she did a fantastic job. I can't remember how many discs she went through, but she did this on a ladder. This is super lightweight. Did not create a whole bunch of dust, which was real nice. And again, I personally don't have a lot of experience with this yet, but now that we're in and we're going to start making live edge windowsills, all that kind of stuff for our kitchen countertops. I'm definitely going to be using this a lot more, but my wife said she absolutely loved it, and it wasn't very heavy. The only thing that we noticed, you do have to use the 5 amp hour battery. Anything smaller than that, it just doesn't seem to have like the power. And I think it even said it on the box, use the 5 amp hour battery. And the last of the power tools is the Bauer Jigsaw. I figured I was just going to go with all Bauer because I had batteries that ran everything else. So I got a total of 4 batteries and 2 chargers. All the batteries are interchangeable, of course. And this jigsaw, I actually trimmed out our windows and stuff with it, and I hit some nails that I didn't see. Actually bent a couple blades, and this thing is still going strong. Again, you know, it's got some multi-features where you can adjust your speed, your torque, you can adjust your angle. I didn't use this a ton on the house build, but when I needed it, it worked absolutely great for just getting that fine corners and rounding off stuff that I needed to do. All right. I've owned levels before, much smaller, but I figured that with building a house, I'm going to need a much bigger one. This is the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh, and for the money, I was really surprised how much levels are, like at Home Depot and stuff. So I ended up buying this one. I have dropped it. It's fallen off ladders. It's slid down roofs. And besides a few scrapes and dings, this thing is in actually awesome shape. And I'm pretty sure this is the only level we used. We always just kept it handy. I like the handles. Right here, you can put it up, you know. Super lightweight. Actually, my wife used this probably more than I did. But yeah, for the price, this thing, and it's in great shape for building a house and being knocked around. And the last two tools, you can't build a house without a square and a hammer. Now, I have hammers, but I've never owned a framing hammer, and I'm so glad that I got a framing hammer. Man, to drive nails and stuff like this with this type of head and this long shank, man, it really saved my wrists, my elbows. This is a Crescent 22-ounce framing hammer. This was great. It's got a great grip on it. And of course, when you're building a house, you're going to mess up and you're going to have to pull some nails out. And with this nice long handle, it had a nice leverage to, well, pull out your mistakes. And then, of course, the square. And again, this is my first square ever owning one. I know how to use it maybe 2% of what it probably actually can do. Cutting angles and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I'm a complete beginner when it comes to building stuff. But this thing, again, has been dropped, stepped on, in the sun, in the rain, in the snow. And this thing is, even though it's just plastic, it is absolutely invaluable when you're building a home. And to my surprise, you do not need thousands and thousands of dollars of high quality tools to build a house. I'm going to add up all what I paid for these tools a year and a half, 2 years ago. Well, the whole point of this video is that even a complete beginner using Harbor Freight tools can build a house and not have any issues. Again, if you were just to buy the framing hammer or the skill saw, just to have a skill saw in your garage or shop, and you're not building a house, I think it's totally worth it. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty impressed, and I will probably buy more tools when we're making kitchen countertops. We're going to be building those out of 2x8s. Well, everybody, there you have it. Harbor Freight built house. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to our channel. Like I said, we're totally off grid here. We're going to be posting videos, several a month, about just our off-grid lifestyle. Been doing this now for going on 3 years, and it's a slow process, but me and my wife Brenda are absolutely loving it. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.